to do the rest of the good work. So are we ready to go? Are we recording? And I can.
We are now recording.
Great. Quinn will be mostly doing this, but I'll just do this here at the first, I guess. Yeah, it's been fun to just chat before we get going here. This is really lovely and really lovely to see everybody. I'm sorry we don't have Debbie. Hopefully she can join us. And Matt, I guess you are there. We don't see you, but I see a name, so great. That's fine. Oh.
Hi, here I am.
He's walking.
I'm enjoying the sunshine.
It is a lovely, lovely day. I'm happy to see you actually outside enjoying. So the first agenda item is an easement on Crandall's orchard. So this has really come along quite quickly in the last month or two. So this is the orchard, virtually the only one left in Orem. I think the only one, in fact, left in Orem. It's at 800 East and Center Street. I'm sure we all know it. You first met with the Crandalls last summer to talk to them about the possibility of an easement. We've been talking about that in this committee for a couple of years now. And the Crandalls really want to move forward with at least part of their property and maybe more with an easement. We have been in touch with the state of Utah, which has some funding for this purpose. They seemed enthusiastic about the possibility, thought based on our description that the property would fit a conservation easement very well. The idea behind a conservation easement is that it will remain in agricultural production, which is what the state actually prefers. They're not looking for open lands as much as they're looking to preserve agriculture. And we have also been talking to nonprofit organizations oriented around this cause. Utah Open Lands, for example, seems quite interested. They're kind of the primary organization along these lines. So we are working on submitting an application with Utah Open Lands. And once that gets underway, we'll probably submit an application to the state of Utah. Significant hurdles include finding funding for this, which is where Utah Open Lands comes in, and sort of meeting all the requirements of various kinds of entities. And because this is a cooperative endeavor among different agencies and nonprofits, you know, it should be, there will be some work to do here, but early indications are all quite positive. The one thing that Utah Open Lands requires from the city is they require a statement, a resolution from the city council that they support an easement on agricultural land inside the city. I am sad that Debbie's not with us to give us any guidance on that. But Matt, that helps answer a question we had previously about one of the things that's required of the city. You know, I'm not going to close the door on the need for funding because I don't know much about that yet. But clearly the first thing that we need is we need a resolution from the city council that would favor preserving the orchard as an orchard. It helps that it's already designated as an agricultural overlay, but Utah Open Lands would like something a little more specific. They say that that's actually super helpful when they go about their fundraising. So this is an item that we do have a city council work session on the agenda in April. We could possibly put that forward at that point. I am sort of letting the committee know about this because I'm actually more than letting you know. I am seeking your support. I would love the committee to be an official sort of sponsor of this effort. And I would love to hear your feedback on anything I've said or any questions about it.
Darren, two questions. Can you give us a little bit more sense of what the Crandall's interests are, and what would work for them? And then secondly, could you maybe synthesize a little bit the kind of funding that would be required in the sourcing?
So the Crandall's interests are in keeping it in agricultural production for as long as possible. They love the orchard. They love the heritage of the orchard. They want to preserve it as an orchard. They also are in need of, honestly speaking, they're in need of some short-term cash to kind of keep it going. Selling an easement would provide them with some substantial cash to, for example, increase their cooler capabilities so that they can, in fact, better produce the fruit and store it appropriately. That's their interest. What was the second part of the question, Quinn? I'm sorry.
I don't have my mind around the funding requirements yet.
The funding. So the property has not been assessed. We were talking with Matt about likely value, which is, very high if it was put into development. I can't remember precisely what we came up with, but it's a big number. And we have to, and we're going to have to do more work here to figure out, what's the difference between, because an easement, the cost of an easement is the cost of the difference between the land as agricultural land and the land as a housing development land. And there's still work to be done to figure out what that figure is. But the state of Utah commits to half of the funding. The Crandalls are interested in, if necessary or helpful, donating part of the cost, which actually counts towards their half of the funding. And Utah Open Lands, that's what they do. They fundraise for this kind of stuff. We need to get them down here and have a more serious conversation with them about likely value and fundraising capabilities. I am hopeful that they could fundraise the full amount minus the Crandall's donation, but I'm not sure. It's going to be a big number.
So the statement from the city council that you mentioned, is that kind of a theoretical statement, meaning that we support this kind of thing in general, and we think that this would be a worthwhile property to preserve, or does it commit the city to any kind of financial investment as well?
There is no commitment in financial investment that we would be seeking at this point. It is simply an in principle, and specifically this property, we would like to see it preserved for agriculture.
What I like about it is I think it's a project that's unifying. I think that it would get a lot of broad support among the residents, and I think the city council, I'm not sure, I obviously can't speak for them, but I do have high hopes that that this kind of heritage legacy, honoring Orem's roots, so to speak, could be something that could unify a lot in the community. Really get behind.
Any other thoughts?
I would just share, I ran this briefly by Ryan Clark, just a gauge. I think without actually being in the mind of the council themselves, I think there'd probably be support for a resolution to encourage the state to dedicate funding towards this. Whether the city would participate in that funding is probably a little more of a stretch. But that, again, that's just a gut reaction from Ryan Clark.
Great.
I think that, to be honest, Orem has done a poor job of preserving agricultural lands. And we are preserving the very last little scraps. And I would be 100% enthusiastic about trying to preserve anything we can through an easement.
I wonder, is it appropriate to maybe go on record as a committee saying that we support an effort to put an agricultural easement on the orchards and other agricultural land inside city boundaries?
If you'd like to do that, yeah, you can do that. Just someone makes a motion, someone seconds it, and then you vote. I think that's how that would work.
Yeah, I think this is a kind of a big enough issue that I'd like to just get us officially on the record with that.
Okay.
If that's okay. So I would like to move that our committee support agricultural easements on remaining agricultural lands inside Orem city boundaries, and especially on the Crandall's orchard.
On remaining agricultural land.
Do we need to have that
especially
especially on Crandall's orchard, Darren?
I think we do. That is something that I believe Utah Open Land said that they would like to see, because donors want to see clear political intent.
So I think that they want to see that from the council, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the only concern I have is I don't know if we want to go on record saying that we prefer some properties over others.
Okay. Orchard lands then.
Do we have a second? There's a motion out there. Do we have a second?
Well, it sounds like the motion has been amended. So let's leave the word Crandall out of it and just say
Okay.
agricultural and orchard lands.
Okay, we will amend the motion. So the motion is for the committee to support agricultural easements on remaining agricultural land in Orem. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think agriculture encompasses orchards, so.
Sounds good. Okay. Need a second.
Yeah, I will second.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor? Raise your hands or say aye.
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 Okay. I see it's unanimous in the affirmative, 5-0. Thank you for your support of that. And, let's hold off on talking to city council people about this until we've been able to talk to the Utah Public or Open Lands people and get a little bit clearer on precisely what the resolution needs to say, but just so we know that this is in the works. As far as our city council work session agenda, do you know, has that been scheduled in particular, Matt? I'm not recalling if there is a date. Do you recall?
Do you recall what the topic was for?
So, well, let me find the email on this.
Was that the topic on the community renewals program?
So yes, that's one of the topics. As I understand, let's see, what email was this in? This is a,
Darren, I have a little bit of information.
okay.
It's not helpful information,
Oh,
but I spoke with Debbie. I shared this with Darren earlier, but I'll share it with the whole committee. I spoke with Debbie about the timing and purpose of that work session. Two things. First of all, it sounded like we could get 30 minutes. That in principle, the city manager had agreed to schedule it sometime in April. That Debbie wants an update on any developments associated with HB 411. She wanted that on the agenda. She also wanted something on agricultural easements if we had it, Darren. And we have to decide if we have enough information to share. And then she wanted to hear more about our priorities for 2021. She asked me to just check in with Jamie Davidson, city manager, to see if he has it scheduled. I sent him an email. I don't have his personal or his office number, so I was getting the kind of run around through the phone system. So I never got a chance to talk to him or his office in person, but I did send an email out and haven't heard back on a date. So I don't know if it has been scheduled and they haven't responded or if it's still in the works.
I don't believe it's been scheduled. I can go back, double back and check on that. I spoke with Ryan and Jamie briefly. What we have is a procedural issue in that you need 4 council members to schedule this for the council work session. As far as we understand, Councilmember Luray has not coordinated 4 council members to schedule that with the city manager's office. The last CC I put back on that to Sarah Bateman and Councilmember Luray, I believe. I have not heard back from her or the council or the city manager. Jamie indicated though, I try to dig in the memory vault here. You know, there's some potentials with doing more with the WattSmart program and some other initiatives, and that maybe giving a little more time to flesh that out. I'll have to circle back on that topic of what he was talking about, but he was looking more for a May meeting. But again, I think the main issue here is procedural, that the city manager hasn't received 4 council members' requests of this.
Okay, that's very helpful, Matt and Quinn. Thank you very much. I'm going to leave that for you guys to discuss in a moment if you need to discuss that further, but that sounds promising, and it sounds like, you know, May would be fine as well. Let me just know one more thing before I have to hop off.
I don't really think anything's really set for May at all.
Right, right. Yeah, I understand. I understand that nothing's on the agenda. I'm just saying that if it were to happen in May, that would be just as fine. So I understand that nothing's on the agenda yet, and that there are some hurdles here, and sounds like we need to circle around with Debbie again and so forth. So thank you, Matt. I understand that, and we'll keep working towards this goal. It seems like a helpful goal, and that we will have some things to discuss with them. But that, you know, nothing is set yet, and we understand that, you know, there's important procedures here. So thank you. Before I hop off, I just wanted to mention the trails funding as well, because in our presentation to the city council recently, I thought that it was very well received. I was very happy with the reception, the kind words that were said by 3 or 4 of the council people, including the mayor. And the mayor mentioned 2 issues in particular that were of interest to him. One was trails funding, and the other was learning more about agriculture at the Wilkerson Farms. Both of those are issues, you know, Wilkerson Farms, we've just been discussing agriculture, and so I will be getting in touch with the Wilkersons and seeing kind of, you know, getting an update from them on some things, including the mayor's question. But the trails funding, I've asked Matt about that, and he forwarded me the updated kind of plan on this, and the city does have, you know, on the books projected some pretty cool trails. I also reached out to Brandon Stocksdale, who is very much in the thick of all of this. I don't know if you know Brandon, Matt, or I think many of our committee know Brandon. He helps coordinate a lot of trail efforts by local communities in Utah. He works for the Park Service, but he's a kind of a community outreach kind of person. And I asked him about this bill that the mayor mentioned, and he told me that they're still trying to seek clarity on the parameters in the bill. And so, you know, it's not really, you know, the mayor mentioned a bill about funding for trails that might be available from the state and whether or not we might be able to take advantage of that. Anyway, I just want that to be on our agenda. And Matt, you know, if there is a possibility that we can help move forward the plan here by helping get some of these trails that are on the books actually implemented. And or Matt, you also mentioned that the Parks Department is engaged in an effort to update that plan And I think our committee would welcome an opportunity to be involved in that. So,
Sure, we can
Matt, maybe
schedule
you could
maybe an
respond.
update meeting with them.
Pardon
And that
me?
may give you an opportunity to ask for a chance to put input into that plan.
Okay.
I know they have hired a consultant, Landmark Design, to lead that effort. So I'd be happy to try and schedule an update for one of your future meetings.
That would be lovely. Thank you, Matt. So I'm going to hop off. Thank you for letting me hog the first half of the agenda here, everyone. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you, Darren.
Bye-bye.
Can I ask a question, a clarifying question on, so Matt, you mentioned that it required 4 council members to get on a work session. Correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that that was in reference specifically to the Community Renewable Energy program. Is that policy for any topic? Like if we just wanted to talk with the council about all of the other issues, agriculture or whatever, our other priorities for the year outside of the community renewable, does that still require 4 council members?
Well, and I may be confused or missing a piece of information, so please forgive me if I've forgotten something. I feel like I may have. In general, yes, that would be the procedure to talk about any specific issue with the council. As far as your annual update, we did that a couple weeks ago. As far as just a general brainstorming session to talk about various issues, does anyone recollect that that was scheduled, that type of topic was scheduled independent of the Community Renewals Act? I feel like it may have been, but I'm not sure.
I have a little bit of information on that, Matt. And this again comes from my conversation with Debbie. To Debbie's mind, it's not a retreat. So a work session is not a retreat where we just ask questions of the council and get their feedback. She says that for a work session, she would prefer that we provide some instruction or we teach the council. That's her words were, we want to learn something from you if we hold a work session. So if we think about the range of terms for this, presenting in front of the council is we have a brief slideshow and information. A work session would be a more in-depth conversation where we highlight our priorities and we provide updates on key things that the council cares about. And then a retreat, which I don't think is on the table, would be a more casual, much more dialogue-based conversation. And so when
there's 2 parts to my question. Does anyone recall if we actually had a firm date for April meeting on any topic? Because I don't recall this.
No, we don't.
Okay, thank you. So then I would say, in answer to the second part of that question is, then yes, any discussion, whether it's broad-based or topic-specific, is going to need to have the city manager put that on the agenda. And typically, my understanding has been that 4 council members request that the agenda. Now, if there's an exception to that rule for a broad-based discussion, I'm not aware of it, but it may exist.
Okay, thank you. What Debbie specifically asked for our work session was a multi-topic work session where we talk about HB 411 stuff, we talk about conservation easements, and we talk about our priorities for 2021. So it would be broader than Community Renewable Energy Act, Matt. But we can't initiate that, right? That's really in Debbie's court. Is that my understanding from what you just said?
I'm gonna go try and find if there's a council handbook on this stuff. Sometimes those exist. And if I can get some clarity on how procedures work. I'm just being told through channels these things. I would say that just my gut reaction is it's still going to be the same procedure. you're gonna need to coordinate with the city manager. He's asking for council members to approve agenda items.
Okay, but the person that would get those 4 counselors to sign on is Debbie. It's not
Well,
necessarily.
I think
something we
that's
can
one
do.
route that you can go. I think you could also, if you don't feel like a certain council member's response, so you have the right to talk to any council member you wished and ask them to engage on this topic or this multifaceted topic.
Okay, I don't think that that's the case at the moment.
Okay.
So I will see if Jamie responds to me, and I'll keep Debbie in the loop there, and I will take that one on as a personal agenda item. Thanks for the clarification. Sam Neptune is here. Thanks for joining us, Sam. Prior to the meeting, I just sent out to committee members his latest sustainability survey for organizations. In terms of timeline, we've discussed trying to get approval for sending something out from the committee today, so that we have 3 weeks for people to respond to that. Sam is on a bit of a timeline because he's following the university semester schedule, and hopes to have some nominations that we can evaluate prior to our next meeting. Sam, I sent you some stylistic feedback. I think you might have seen that. So it had more to do with formatting and style than content. But I wanted to see if anyone has had a chance to look at that and if you have feedback for Sam before we finalize that and make that available.
I took a quick look, and there's just like an editing change suggestion and some wording, but I can send that later.
Awesome, thank you.
And at least for me, I needed to go through and I needed to put my name or a name in there before it would allow me to go through and preview the whole survey. So Sam, you will have a few junk responses from us as we take the survey to read through it.
I also have a quick question. I noticed that it's different from the earlier version. The earlier version had some specific questions about energy and water and waste and other items. So I'm just curious why the shift from specific questions to a broader question.
So as far as I know, what I'm looking at right now, it looks like question 22, 23, and 24. Those ones are specifically asking about what they're doing to sustainably reduce or recycle waste, reduce water consumption, and then energy consumption. We haven't really changed those too much around, but there may have been questions earlier that were more specific, but that's generally about as specific as the questions were.
Okay, because I think the version that I had, I don't know, I didn't notice specific, it just seemed like a general question, like what, I guess here's a question about natural resource, reducing natural resource consumption.
So what I'm reading right now, it says, please describe your organization's efforts to sustainably reduce energy consumption. There's a similar question for water. There's one for reducing recycling waste, and then an option to share other sustainability efforts.
Okay, well, I will go back and look at it because I guess I'm missing some of it. So I will check it out later.
I had a question regarding one of the questions, just what the data would do for us. So why do we care how many employees they have?
Yeah, so I feel like I think the general idea behind that was to be able to, because I guess like every organization is going to have different like water usage and electricity usage, and so it would give us an idea of how we could compare them based on how big of an organization they are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so then my follow-up question is, are we going to do, best small company best mid-sized company, best large company. Is that in the works to have awards based on efficiency within, kind of like boxing, right? The heavyweights aren't
Yeah.
boxing with the lightweights.
Yeah, so as of right now, we have not discussed that, but that's definitely a possibility. It was more focused on an improvement award, like organizations that are striving to be better with environmental sustainability, and then those that are already doing well. But I think that's definitely a good idea that we could do.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I like getting more data. I was just curious what the plan was.
Okay.
For me, Paul, it would be helpful for us, since this is new to us, to try to be able to compare organizations that are comparable. So if we have an organization, a company in a particular sector, right, in a particular size, then it may start to give us a little bit of a baseline as to what people are able to do out there. Otherwise, I think it will be really quite hard for us to compare very different kinds of businesses, very different sizes, very different sectors, and know what good is until we get a little bit of comparable information, I think.
One other thing I was thinking, and maybe it could be housed within some of these broader questions of energy consumption or something like that, but are we interested in whether companies are promoting carpooling or bicycling, like if they have bicycle racks and things like that? Is that just going to be something that they could mention if they think of it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that someone else mentioned that a couple months ago. I think it was Hillary possibly mentioned, yeah, like companies that are promoting things like that. And that's not included in the survey right now. I don't know what Quinn's thoughts are about it. I think the idea was to kind of keep it more like simpler this year, but that's obviously something that if you want, I could add that, but I don't know what the other committee members think, what Quinn thinks about that, so.
Other
Yeah, I mean,
comments?
I'm fine with it being open-ended. I was just curious.
And I think we could definitely probably add something like that, yeah, to question 25 when it asks what else they're doing to sustainably please describe any other sustainable resource use efforts your organization is doing. I feel like that question could probably be tweaked in a way that could get responses that key in on that. So.
Maybe one thing you could do there, Sam, is to, in parentheses, say example, support for employee sustainable transportation, etc., or something like that.
Okay.
Because I do think it is something that is not terribly prohibitive for organizations to do, and that we do want to give them credit for if they are doing it.
Yeah, was there any other feedback? I know it was, probably a lot of you haven't had the time to look over it, but yeah.
Sarah, were you able to find the link that went out today?
I clicked on it and I took a look at it and I went through, I found what I thought was a workaround as far as being able to view each question without having to fill it out. But it seems like I missed some of the pages.
Let me just share my screen for a moment, if it's okay.
Sure.
And see if this is the same thing you're looking at. So after getting some data about the organization, right? These are the key questions. Please describe your organization's efforts to do these various things. Okay,
that looks different than what I got. I had kind of a draft version where it showed side by side, the desktop versus the mobile version of it.
Oh, there's like a little dial up in the top right corner, Sarah, where you can turn the mobile view on or off.
Oh, right. Okay. There we go. But even then, the format looked a little bit different, I think. Well, yeah.
Like overall, Sam, I think you're on a good track here. I think you'll get some good, interesting data and good responses.
Awesome, thank you. And we were able to get the approval to have the Orem logo on the survey. I'm not sure. I've been kind of trying to figure out a way to put that onto the survey. I don't know if that's something you can do just through Qualtrics or if that's something that you have to have sent over to you. I think maybe.
Jake or Matt?
Yeah.
You guys have any insight into that?
I'm not a regular Qualtrics user, so I'm not sure how to add a logo into that platform.
I am a regular Qualtrics user, but also trying to wrangle some children. I know, like at the first, if you're doing like a intro page, you can add a graphic. Or did you want to have it like throughout, or just like an intro and final page?
That's a really good question. I was thinking probably just at the beginning and the end.
Yeah, that's really all you need. I'm going to put my email address in here, and then I can show you how to do it maybe tomorrow.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Hillary.
And I would like to maybe, just because we're using the city logo, I want to make sure we're partnering that with the Nrsc. And so if I could maybe do a little pre-approval of what it looks like and maybe try and make sure it looks like it's from the committee in addition to the city. Just wanted to set eyes on that, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, sounds great.
Do we have an NRSC logo that we can add?
Well, we have something that I think Pete made up for us several years ago. That's very simple. I can send it over. I can send it to you, Sam, and I'll copy Matt.
And I do think putting it on the beginning and the end would be fine. I'd like to decide briefly the channels through which we're going to send this out. So we had discussed we discussed sending it out through an Instagram post. And Sarah, I think you helped build one of those, right? You and Sam worked on that, and we have an Instagram graphic that we can use. And that would be one place where we can post on the city website and with a link to the survey, right, as an invitation. Sam, were there other channels that you had discussed getting it out?
Yeah, so I actually just got a call from Amanda Heppery. She's the membership director for the Utah Valley Chamber of Commerce, and she got in touch with Jamie Davidson, who gave us the approval to send out like a survey announcement through the chamber, basically to their member organizations. And so as far as that goes, that's basically approved. And so she said they could get that out as soon as Monday. And so that just depends basically on if we're able to get the survey done in time. And then I was able to reach out to Nate Prescott, who is the, I think, economic development analyst, and they have a newsletter that they send out to their Orem businesses, I think twice a week. And I know that he reached out to me last Tuesday about sending that out. So it sounds like they send it out Tuesday, and then I'm not sure the other day, but so Tuesday would be an option to get that sent out through Nate.
So let's get that sent out through Nate and through the chamber. That sounds great. Jake or Matt, do you guys have any suggestions as to other places we could put it on city communications that might be helpful?
The city has a constant contact email list. I can work with Pete Wolfley, who's in the city manager's office over communications, to see if that may be available.
Thank you.
In terms of our timeline, I think it would be really lovely to be able to get this out either tomorrow or Monday. Monday might be more realistic. But that would give us about 3 weeks. And let's have a deadline of April 22nd for nominations and submissions, if that's okay. We can highlight that that's Earth Day if you'd like as well, as a reminder. Does that sound okay to the committee as an appropriate amount of time to have that out in the ether?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the Earth Day deadline is nice.
Okay, so if you do have any feedback on wording or text, so Sarah, I know you had a little bit. If you could shoot that to Sam tonight as we close up, or about tomorrow at the latest. That way we would be able to get that over to Matt. Matt wants to see it before it goes out, and then have it ready to launch on Monday, if that's okay. And Pete Wolfley will be helpful with that. Thanks, Hillary. Okay, we've talked already a little bit about the work session. Were there any comments or questions about what we want to accomplish in the work session, or suggestions about how we want to frame that for either April or May when we get on the calendar?
So I just had a question, just because I haven't ever been to one of these. What's the format? Do we want all 5 of us there, and like, are we basically getting questioned by the council, or is one of us up there in the front teaching, or like how exactly does it work?
Sarah, you've done this before. Do you want to speak to that?
Well, at the time, the last time I did a work session was actually before this committee was established, and it was kind of the precursor for this committee. That it's a more casual environment. It's still recorded, but it's just a more casual environment where you can present about whatever the topic is, and then council members can ask questions, and you can have a little bit more of a dialogue about the issues. So.
And Paul, if I'm not mistaken, they usually don't happen in the council chambers. They happen across the hall, at least, in the human era, when we were in the same room. So it's not people sitting in big high back chairs. It's around a table. And I think as many members of the committee that wanted to be there should and could be there. And we might not get all of the council there either.
Mm-hmm. And the point is to kind of dive in a little bit deeper into different things and discuss stuff. There's no like binding decisions that are made or anything like that.
Right.
Okay.
They're considered to be kind of educational opportunities for the council to see what they should be prioritizing, putting on their agenda. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll try to work with Jamie and Debbie to find a time to get on the calendar there. Matt, I know that Darren already talked about trails funding, but do you have any wisdom for us in terms of what our next steps are there?
Sorry, just walking the door here. Trails funding, no, I'd have to research that more. I mean, again, this is something the mayor threw out at your work session. And so I'd have to find out more about this bill and see what it's really all about. Like I said, I'd invite to get the Parks Department to try and give you an update on their master plan, but
we would love to hear from them. Would it be all right if we put that on your agenda, on your to-do list, is to figure out what our next steps should be there, to provide input and to make sure that
yeah, I can look over that.
Thank you.
Have we already talked about MAG's funding, Matt?
No, not specifically. I
Okay.
think, if we want to start pursuing trail funding, usually, one, I could sit down with the Parks Department and see what they're already doing,
That'd probably
and if
be
they're
good.
utilizing any of that money. I'm not plugged in at all with, trail planning execution, so you give me an assignment, I'm starting from scratch on.
I did a little bit in school. I know MAG's got a great resource, and they do have some funding for stuff for trail planning.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they definitely have grants and funding. Jim Price is a acquaintance of mine, and he does a fantastic job. What I don't know is whether the Parks Department is already tapping into those resources or not. That's what I'll have to start researching.
Right. Right.
Okay, well, let's put that on our agenda for next month, if that's all right. Jake, that'd be helpful to get that on our agenda. The remainder of our agenda is dedicated to committee updates. We've got 10 minutes for that. And what I thought we would do is start with you, Sarah, and bring up anything under your topics and stewardship that you'd like to raise to the committee. And then Paul and Hillary as well, if you wanted to jump in and share where you are on active transport or brownfields, things like that. So Sarah?
Okay. I apologize that I have dropped the ball on some of the social media this year, but that's life sometimes, and I'm trying to get back into it. So I do apologize. Been a little creatively blocked. But I'm hoping to get the water feature thing started this next week. But what is more time sensitive is the Earth Day Youth Art Contest that we've done over the past 4 years. We are starting late. We haven't talked about it. We have, because we've done this in past years, I think we can plug and play pretty well. But the question that I had was, last year we approved spending some of our budget, well, because it was going to go away or whatever with COVID. So we gave a gift card to the winner to spend it. She chose an Orem business and we got her a gift card. And so my question is, our budget this year, what does it even look like? How much money do we have? And is this something that the committee would be interested in putting some kind of money towards the winner again this year?
The only thing I've heard about our budget is that it was cut in the last budget cycle. But does anyone have any information on it? It would be lovely to know what it was.
Well, and also what it is now.
Yeah.
Matt?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact number. It was reduced as of June last year, and that was about $150 total budget. I can confirm what the exact number is. The budget is not passed until June again, and so you still have that budget.
Are we planning on submitting any kind of budget this year?
Are you directing that to me? I don't know what the procedure has been in the past years.
Well, last year
Do
was
you
the
formally
first.
submit a budget request?
Last
have
year was the
submitted a
first
request.
time that we were invited, I guess, to submit a budget.
Okay, well, I can follow up on that with Jason.
Okay. So I guess my question is, before I proceed to advertise the art contest, what am I going to say as far as what the prize will be this year?
I think it will be hard for us to spend our money in the next couple of months. And so I would support a $50 gift card as a prize.
That's kind of what I was thinking as well. But I didn't know if that was an issue or other concerns that committee members wanted to discuss.
I'd also support the gift card. I'm remembering you, did you also talk to someone and they got their artwork up on the billboards, right? At
Yeah.
University Place,
Yeah,
which is also
So-
cool.
that should also happen again. I think our contacts are something that we can also just plug in again. And
Sarah, can you remind us how we get the word out? It's through the school, basically, right?
right, so we put it up on social media, and then we reach out to, last year we had kind of a student intern from UCAS, and she helped reach out to like the school's art teachers, and they could pass that along, and it was a form that they filled out. So in theory, I can just kind of copy paste and update the form and the graphic for it, but just and then reach out to the schools. So
I think we should try to keep it going.
yeah,
And I think it needs to happen this week.
okay, I know. Sorry.
I mean, next week might be okay too. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, but I think our, time is short, as you know. But you've
Yeah,
been
exactly.
really great at making sure that happens every year, and I think it's
Oh.
a good way of supporting our mission.
Yeah, I do want to keep it, but I apologize for dropping the ball, and I'm hoping to pick it up soon.
Do you have any other updates, Sarah?
No.
Hillary?
Yeah, I don't have many updates related to like the brownfields or anything. I don't know if anything has been done with that, honestly.
I haven't heard anything.
Okay, that makes me feel better because I was like, oh
Okay,
man,
yeah, you guys really won't be plugged in at all. So
that's fine.
don't worry about anything till I mention it.
Okay, that sounds good.
I'll give you a status update. So again, you guys got plugged in after the initial stakeholders hearing committees. Right now we're in a phase where we're trying to recruit property owners to participate in the program, and that's slow going. There's a lot of fears and misconceptions about what doing a phase 1 environmental assessment means for their site and what they'll be committed to. I'm sending out information packets to property owners and trying to get more contact information, phone numbers, so we can start cold contacting some of these. Essentially, I have to become a salesman at this point because there's been zero interest shown. I even brought it up to a developer we're meeting with. They're interested in developing a site that's on one of our priority lists, and their reaction was pretty much thanks, but no thanks, but we'll look at it if you send me something.
Well,
So
if we can support you in anything, I think Paul and I, maybe I'm speaking for both of us, but we're here to support you.
Okay.
Like if you,
yeah, so I'm not sure when the steering stakeholder committee will meet again. We need to get some of these people recruited and participating. That's where the next phase of the funding needs to be focused and spent.
yeah.
But I'm happy to keep you informed as you ask.
I will say one other project that I have that I think ties into the our committee is some students and I are doing kind of a barriers to water conservation around landscaping. We're doing a survey hopefully in May, and Matt was kind enough to peer review it, as was Darren. Just kind of trying to learn more about why people don't or haven't converted their landscape. I was reading some reports that that's this huge opportunity of water conservation is conversion of landscapes from, just grass to low water use. So kind of like trying to assess where people are. Is it just, is it like a money thing? Is it an education thing? And then trying to see what programs maybe we can support residents who want to convert landscapes. So that'll be something coming up. We won't have results till like June, but I think that ties into our work.
Very much so. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we are in a drought. We have a drought declaration. One thing that I think we should talk about at some point too, it may affect us less than it affects the state is that 80% of water usage in Utah is agricultural, right? And so I think that's a big conversation to have as a state anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And then like in municipalities, I don't know if I haven't seen the numbers anywhere in Utah County, but Salt Lake County did it. Something like 70% of their water is for outdoor landscaping, like at the household level. So it's a really big opportunity. I'm excited to get to work on it.
That's fantastic. Paul, any updates from you?
Nothing set. I've been doing some thinking about, now that it's warming up and I'm wanting to bike more, about what we had talked about when we had the update on the city bike plan, and how there seemed to be quite a bit of interest from Jeff Lamson from the city council side of maybe reinstituting the bike with the mayor day. And then also the Orem Summerfest might actually be happening. And we had talked last year about some sort of bike valet tent or something, but that was part of our budget ask last year, was some to fund that bike valet. But I don't know, with COVID it's still looming. I'm not sure what the timing of that of the Summerfest and biking with the mayor, if we should try to avoid, those valet sort of services where people touch other people's stuff, or they get kind of close to other people, or we have pancake breakfasts together,
Summerfest, I think, is scheduled for the second week of June.
Okay.
And that is pretty soon. Could we put Summerfest on our agenda for next month, Jake? And just talk about if there's any role we want to play there. Is that going to be too late to talk about it if we talk about it May 6th?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that will be okay.
I think those are good open questions.
I think Summerfest could be a good opportunity to, conduct some surveys. Maybe that water survey that you had, Hillary, or, whatever questions that we might want to ask a bunch of people in a short amount of time.
Yeah, was it Summerfest last year, Sarah, where you got the data for the HB 411?
It was at Touch a Truck.
Oh, Touch a
in
Truck.
October, I think October or something.
That's right.
Well, if we could somehow wrangle up a bunch of giant pickup trucks and have a little kind of a parade float, an Nrsc parade float, probably not appropriate this year.
All right, we need little battery powered scooters.
That's okay. That's
Or
right.
ride our bikes.
Electric
Ride
bikes.
our bikes, even better. Yeah.
I'm guessing that we should not be in the parade this year, if the parade even happens. All right, our time is up. We do need to approve our minutes. Can I entertain a motion to approve our minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. Minutes are approved. Can I get a motion to adjourn today?
I'll motion to adjourn.
And I'll second.
Great. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jake, for your great participation and contributions to our meeting. And thanks everyone for being here. We will see you May 6th.
Great. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
See ya.